Today, we ask the age-old question, will it hybrid DK? Let's talk about that. Welcome back, guys. This time, we got a hybrid DK for you. This one is a special one. I really like this one. I played it for like 10 days now, really getting the hang of it. It's a little different than I usually build my hybrids. Usually I go for really high damage, kind of like a squishy hybrid. But I've been having some issues with this kind of hybrid playstyle. So I went ahead and I made a more robust, more tanky hybrid. Lower damage for sure. But that's not really an issue because the extra tankiness really allows us to stay offensive longer and really apply the damage instead of being forced onto the defensive and not doing any damage at all. So I think this works better, and especially for for a beginner, this might be the better hybrid because it just gives you a little more breathing room and you're not that squishy than my typical kind of hybrid. So let's go over the build real quick. Like I said, hybrid, of course, we have the split stats. Almost 23k magicka, a little less stamina, 22.4, almost 22.5, but a decent amount of health, 27.7k, almost 28k on the health pool. Really nice. This really, together with the resists of this build, the extra health really brings it home, really makes you durable and tanky and bulky. So I really like that a lot. The magic and the stamina recovery. Stamina recovery a little higher, almost 1400, 1230 on the magicka recovery. If we buff up with our pot here, we get some decent regens here. 1450 on the magicka regen and 1590, almost 1600 on the stamina recovery. This of course goes up even further depending on what we do. We have a 2H, so if we kill someone with a 2H, the stamina recovery goes up. If we take a resource, we get 20% extra regens. So this really helps, and I think this is a decent amount of sustain. You got to get used to it for sure, but once you get the hang of it and you know how to play, this really gives you a lot of sustain. And when I started with the build, I was like, oh, I don't know if the sustain is enough, but after I played it a couple days, I was like, okay, I finally understand how the build works, how it needs to be played, and then you start having less and less sustain issues. And it feels good. Sometimes, if you can stay offensive, you will probably not have any sustain issues. Sustain issues only happen when you really get pressured and you just constantly gotta stay on the defensive and heal and block and dodge. That's when your sustain is really in danger. Otherwise, when you're offensive, and this build is meant to just stay offensive, it really doesn't matter because you have enough sustain. And I had some fights where I literally didn't drop below 90% on my resources because I could just stay offensive, and being offensive is just cheaper than being defensive. So keep that in mind. When it comes to spell and weapon damage, let me just buff up here real quick. This gets us to 4000 spell and weapon damage. If we really buff up and we have like our full thing, I mean, if we give someone the poke with the staff, we get a lot of extra damage. And then of course we have our molten whip passive. So if we just spam our noxious breath, we get 300 extra weapon damage. So fully buffed, you're going to be sitting at 5.6k weapon and spell damage, which is a decent amount for a build like this, because we're focusing on more sustain and tankiness than damage. But 5.6k weapon and spell damage on a tanky build, still pretty decent. And when it comes to our defenses, we get a decent amount. Look at this, almost hard capped spell resistance, 32k and almost 29k physical. This is really nice, and we have the ice staff on the back bar. That means we get the really strong block. So overall, a lot of tankiness, a lot of healing power. This makes the build really bulky, and we have a decent amount of crit resistance as well. So that's not bad. Our penetration is not very high, but that's a typical hybrid thing. You usually don't have a lot of penetration unless you build for it. Our physical penetration, though, goes up to 8k, so that's not bad. When we use our noxious breath, we're gonna have 8k penetration on our target. It's pretty decent. Can't complain about that. But otherwise, you know, it's not the build with the most penetration. But you don't need it. You have other mechanics that really bring home the damage. We are, of course, a vampire, and I highly recommend being a vampire, especially on a hybrid, because you get the extra regen. 10% on both resources is a big deal, actually. You know, you really want the regen, and especially with a tanky build, it makes you even more tanky when you get low health, which, you know, the healing power this build has is insane. You know, you have a lot of healing power, and just the resistances and the damage reduction you get from being a vampire, low health, really makes it possible for you to survive a lot of burst and just recover from you know, situations that you might die normally in. So I think this just synergizes well. So vampirism, highly recommended. For our Mundus, I chose the lady because I thought, let's just stack some resistance here, and I think it really helps. You could drop this if you really want, but I think, you know, really stacking those resistances really does the build a favor. So this is my recommendation, but feel free to change it up if you want something else. And for the food, we use the Jewels of Misrule. This is such a great food. You get the stamina and magical recovery, and you get the max health. So that is just perfect for this build. Because, you know, we need the regens, and we need some extra health to just be even more bulky. So yeah, perfect food. Magicka and stamina, I would suggest putting the points in a way so that you basically have pretty even pools. Those pools are, you know, pretty even. On the back bar, I have a little more extra magicka than I have on the back bar. The back bars are actually pretty even. So there's a couple different ways to build this build, and you will need to adjust your stamina and magicka points accordingly. Make it pretty even. That's all you have to do. You know, just look that you have roughly even pools. That's all I got to say about that. So let's move on to the sets. We are running Fortified Brass. This is an unusual set for a hybrid. Normally you wouldn't run that on a hybrid, but like I said, I was really feeling the extra bulkiness. So yeah, definitely it works. And I'm actually surprised how well the hybrid still works, even with like a set that doesn't give sustain or damage at all. So yeah, Fortified Brass in medium though. Don't run heavy, because that's gonna ruin the build. You will have less sustain and less damage. So medium Fortified Brass. That way you can get the benefits of both. You get the high resistance value, and you get the high damage from medium armor. You get the cost reduction. You get the extra regen. You get the extra crit. So that's really nice. Do the medium Fortified Brass, and that just overall gives you so much bulk and stats offensively, defensively. It's amazing. So yeah, the next set is, of course, Palinals. We are on a hybrid, and, you know, originally I wanted to use a different set, but I decided against it. I decided against it. Palinals is still the better choice. You get the recoveries, which really help, and then you don't have to worry about building for spell and weapon damage. You just build for weapon damage, and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about your spell damage anymore. That's why I decided to use Palinals instead of the other set that I wanted to use, because originally I wanted to use Way of the Air, which is a good set for a hybrid. It gives you spell and weapon damage. So if you want to build a hybrid without Palinals, Way of the Air would be a good solution. But you gotta dodge roll all the time, and that's not really what I wanted to do on this build. So I decided against it, and I went Palinals, and I think that's the best decision. Of course, we have weapon damage on our jewelry because we are stacking the weapon damage. You could go for infused if you wanted to. I personally, you know, I don't really like the infused approach because it's just a teeny tiny bit more damage than if you go for like arcane or robust. I went for arcane because I had them on the jewelry. It doesn't matter. You can go arcane, robust, or triune if you want. Triune would give you a little less maximum stats, but a little more health if you want to go for that. But you can do arcane or robust or a mix of arcane and robust, and then you just adjust your attribute points so that you have even values. That's all you have to do. So I went with arcane. I figure what the hell? It doesn't matter, you know, because I get the extra magicka here, and I can just, as you see, drop the magicka here and put more stamina in there, and I maintain the hybrid stat pools that way. So I would recommend not overthinking it. If you have infused Palinals gear, you can put it on. I personally like having a little more than 20k on my resource pools. So that's why I always try to have like a nice mix of like a higher resource pool and maybe a little less on the weapon damage side, because I figure it kind of plays into sustain having a little more in your magicka and stamina pools. And usually you would be sitting at like 20k stamina and magicka, and that's, I don't know, it's okay. But if I can get a little more, I usually go for that. So yeah, that's how we do it. We have an ice staff on the back bar because this gives you the strong block, and being able to block with stamina and magicka really helps because you can just, you know, you can use your resource pools evenly. If you have enough magicka, you just block with the ice staff. If the magicka is going low, you can block with the front bar, which is a great sword. You know, use a little more stamina, and that way you can go back and forth and block with stamina, block with magicka, heal with stamina, heal with magicka, do damage with stamina, do damage with magicka. You see where this is going. This is like literally why hybrid builds are so cool, because you can just evenly use both your resource pools for everything, and I think that's the way to go, really. So we have infused ice staff with the weapon damage enchant, just to, you know, bulk up the damage. This gives you almost 500 weapon damage, so that's a big buff if you just light attack or heavy attack with the back bar, which you should do anyway. For sustain purposes, I can only say, you know, if possible, just throw in the occasional heavy attack, and otherwise just do the light attacks. Keep your damage buff up. And on the front bar, Nirnhoned, of course, because we want to stack the damage, and that's why we also have the Greatsword, because Nirnhoned Greatsword is the weapon that gives you the most damage, and that's kind of what you want. On a hybrid, especially if you're using Palinals, you really want to stack the damage. And, you know, this allows us to, you know, have a respectable weapon and spell damage value, even though we are kind of tanky on this build, you know, and we don't really build for damage. We don't really have like a damage set, at least in our two main sets. Like, there's no damage in those sets, but we rock still a decent amount of damage. So yeah, You can run a poison if you want, or you put your favorite enchant on. Oblivion damage is okay. You can put on some shock damage, get the minor vulnerability off of it. Whatever you want, put it on. Like I said, you can also go for a poison. Poison works. Doesn't matter. Put on what you want. And then we have one piece of Malakena and one piece Dama House, just to get the the extra spell damage and weapon damage, and the extra stats from Dama House. Like I said, I like having a little more max stat than other people. So yeah, that's basically it. Oh yeah, we're using infused with Tristat enchants on the big pieces, and Impan on the small pieces with a mix of stamina and magicka. But like I said, it really doesn't matter. You can just run all stamina enchants or all magicka enchants, and then you just adjust your resource pools in your attribute points. So yeah, that's the gear. Let's move on to the skills. So on our front bar, we are using Stone Giant. This is our main stun and damaging ability for range. This is going to change next patch, unfortunately, because ZeniMax is kind of ruining Stone Giant. I really like Stone Giant. I've used it for years on so many different builds. It's going to be stamina next patch. That alone is not really a deal breaker yet. It kind of is, but not really. But it's losing the stun, and you have to hit the target 3 times in a row to get the stun. And that's no. That we can't do this. You want a reliable stun, and I prefer Stone Giant over Fossilized because I just want the range and the extra damage. And usually, if you do it right, you can always CC your target, unless he's your target is like a perma blocker, then it kind of sucks. But most of the time, it's okay. Like I said, next patch, this is going to be a stamina skill, which in and of itself is not a deal breaker, but the missing stun is a deal breaker, and it kind of throws off the balance of this build, because when you do a hybrid, especially like a hybrid like this, you kind of want like an even split of magicka and damage and stamina skills, so you can evenly use your resources for damaging, for healing, for buffing, whatever it is. And if it would be a stamina skill right now, we would be having some stamina issues. So this, like on the live server right now, if you want to play it, use the Stone Giant. Next patch, I wouldn't recommend using Stone Giant. Use Fossilize. It's a different kind of CC. It's a stronger CC, but overall a weaker skill, because it doesn't have the range. It doesn't have the damage and the combo potential that Stone Giant has. But I would really recommend next patch, after the Stone Giant changes went through, go for a Fossilize, because you want a magicka skill. You got to use your magicka more on the front bar, and if we replace this with another stamina skill, we kind of get into sustain issues. That's why you got to keep things balanced. So yeah. Otherwise, a decent amount of damage. The ranged stun, the range damage, and of course it gives you a little bit of armor, but that doesn't really matter for this build. The next skill is Noxious Breath. This is a pretty good skill. It does some decent amount of upfront damage. It deals some poison damage over time, and it gives us the Major Fracture, which is it's pretty nice, because it makes this skill hit harder if you cast it more than once. It makes the crit rush hit harder. It makes the take flight hit harder. And yeah, and this is our main damage ability. We are gonna spam this, and you might think, why would you spam this? Because we are using Molten Whip, and whenever we use an Ardent Flame ability, which Noxious Breath is, we will get a stack of weapon and spell damage, and after 3 stacks, our Molten Whip is going to do like 100% more damage. So the way we do this is we just use this, and then we're fully buffed. We have the maximum amount of damage. We have our target debuffed, and we have the fully buffed whip, and then you do the whip on the target, you know? So do this, 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 maybe CC them after the third one, and then give them the big whip. Or maybe do the leap into the whip. That way you get like a really nice, big, and clean damage combo. So that's our main source of damage. The Noxious Breath 3 times to get the full damage potential out of your build, and then do the big whip. So yeah, that's how this works. The next skill is Crit Rush. We need a gap closer, and Crit Rush is just my favorite gap closer in the world. So that's basically all that is. You can go for the other morph if you want, but this is not a damage over time build, so you will not get a lot of damage out of it. I think it's better to just go for Crit Rush, get the guaranteed crit, get some nice damage out of it. And yeah, that's basically what it is. The next skill is Camel Hunter. And this has there's multiple reasons we're using this. I mean, first of all, it gives us some extra weapon damage when we put it on our bar, which is nice. We get the Major Savagery, which is our weapon critical buff. It's really nice. You can pop people out of stealth with it, but don't use it too often. It's really expensive. And we get the Minor Berserk if we attack someone from behind or from the sides, which is easy to do with the Noxious Breath. So let's say this pillar here is your enemy. When your enemy attacks you and you're just, you're just facing each other, you can always throw Stone Fist in their face, run around them, and then hit them from behind. Then you always get the buff, of course. But in general, I don't know how the cone from Noxious Breath is, it's being respected by this skill. You might even get the buff when hitting them from the front, because it's an AoE skill. So this might also be already proccing the Minor Berserk, but it's really not hard to hit people from the sides or from behind. Especially if you can stun them, just do like a sidestep and hit them. It's easy, especially because you're going to be spamming Noxious anyway, so you're going to be hitting them from all kinds of angles, because they will turn around and run away from you when they take damage, and then you get the buff anyway. So yeah, it's a good skill, and just having this on our bar, we don't have to run Slime Craw anymore. So if you don't need the slot for anything else, I would highly suggest using Camel Hunter on all your hybrids or stamina builds, just to get the extra damage. Can't hurt, right? The next skill is, of course, Take Flight. This is our main ultimate. It's really cheap. It has a long range, so you can really engage from quite a distance and just leap into a stack of people or leap a single one. When people are running away, this is a good way of like catching up to them, doing like a mix of stunning them from a distance, gap closing, and Take Flight, so you can really catch up to people, and people will really have a hard time running away from you. And it deals a decent amount of damage. It stuns people, and you can, like I said, you can combo this really well if you go for the Noxious Breath 3 times, then you do the leap, and then the buff whip. Really nice. On the back bar, we have Coagulating Blood. This is our Magicka heal. It's pretty decent. You get a decent amount of healing power out of it. If I buff up here and do this, going to be sitting at 10k Coagulating Blood. I had like 15k heals on this build. It's doing a lot. It's doing a lot, really. So great heal, pretty expensive, but I mean, it's what gives this build the amazing healing power. The next skill is Igneous Weapons, of course, Major Sorcery and Major Brutality. Next patch, I would recommend using the other morph, because the other morph will have Major Sorcery and Major Brutality as well next patch. Plus, you will get the the extra damage. So Molten Armaments right now is just for major sorcery, but it gives the 50% extra heavy attack damage. Next patch, it's gonna give the major brutality as well. So I would highly recommend using the Molten Armaments morph next patch just to get the extra heavy attack damage. Can't hurt. Can't hurt. Fragmented Shield, the next one. This is our, well, it is a teeny tiny shield. We're not using it for the shield. We're using it for major mending, of course. Giving this build insane healing power. And what it also does is it gives you stamina back through your what's it called, the Helping Hands passives. So when you cast this, you will get some stamina back, which is really nice. So if you're like low on stamina but you have a full magicka bar, just cast this a couple times, and yeah, that really helps. The next skill, Volatile Armor. This is of course our main armor buff. It gives a little like damage, magic damage dot to people that are hit by the initial cast, which is pretty nice. I like to just put it on together with the Noxious Breath, just because, you know, you get some extra dot pressure on people, which is really nice. And then of course it has the return, the damage return when people hit you. Yeah, great skill. That's all that it does. Makes you bulky, deals a little bit extra damage. That's all you want. And the next skill, of course, is Resolving Vigor. This is our main stamina heal, of course. This goes up by a lot. If we just buff up here, look at the Vigor. This is an 18k, and this is not even fully buffed. We could probably hit like 19k, and when we're near a keep, we get like extra 20%. So probably hit over 20k on the Resolving Vigor when we're fully buffed. So that is a beefy heal, and it's pretty cheap for what it does. And the combination Vigor and Coagulating Blood just gets you out of sticky situations real quick. So yeah, our ultimate, Shooting Star on the back bar. We're not using this very much, just for situations where I really need the big burst and the CC, and you know, we want a combo. You do the Shooting Star, you swap to your front bar, and you do the Stone Giant. And yeah, so you can CC people before the meteor hits, which is really nice. But in most cases, people will probably, if you do it right, they will not react to this in time and just get stunned anyway. So it's just a double whammy. It does a decent amount of damage. It leaves some flame damage on the floor. So when people stand in it, they will take some damage, which helps, really helps with this build. You can just lure people into the ground AoE and just have them stand in there when they're fighting you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, let's move on to the champion points. So in the red tree, 51 Ironclad, 77 Resistant as always, 43 Hardy and Elemental Defender, and 56 in Quick Recovery. 37 in Warlord, 19 in Sprinter, 43 in Mooncalf and Arcanist, of course. We want the sustain on both. A little bit in Tenacity, 35 here. And then 37 in Shadow Ward. 15% plus the Ice Staff is a lot of cost reduction. And then, of course, 56 in Tumbling for some extra roll dodge, which you will need on this build. The damage split. We're going for 37 Elfborn, 37 Elemental Expert, and 36 Spell Erosion. On the stamina side, we're going 37 Mighty, 37 Precise Strikes, and 35 in Piercing, and Mastered Arms, 51, because we're focused on burst damage, so nothing in Thaumaturge. And yeah, that's basically how we build the damage on this build. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the build, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed. I will leave you with a little bit of PvP footage, mostly 1v1s, because you can really see how the build works. A couple fights are from the live server, and There's like a short duel against my good friend Christopher ESO. We were testing some things on the PTS, and I was playing this build on the PTS with the mentioned changes to the build. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the footage, and I hope you enjoy the build and you give it a try. Let me know what you think of it, if you have success with it, and yeah, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you really like the content so I can do more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya. Yeah, like, I think everybody's sick now at the moment. I was pretty sick like 1.5 weeks ago. I felt pretty sick. Why are you dodging all my stuff? How dare you? Do you have no pride, mister? Oh! Get him out of here, piece of shit! Sorry, you're not a piece of shit. You fought well. I'm sorry. I apologize. Target acquired. Chasing him down. Oh, he's on a slow horse. I can get him on a slow horse. Oh, no! Oh, motherfucker. Oh, yeah. There's a chance. Dude, I was blocking. How did he hit me with that shit? $40k health. Oh my god. Why do I always have to? No. Forget it, motherfucker. Forget it. You're not doing this to me. You're not doing this to me. If you want to... Oh, and I'm getting snipped. I'm getting snipped. It's Arclight. Of course it's Arclight. Who else would it be if not Arclight? Dude, this motherfucker. I hate Arclight. This guy is so... Oh man, my nose is running like crazy. Probably getting ganked by Arclight here in a second. He's probably just positioning himself right now. Oh, he got me with a fear. Look at that. Are you running away? Or what are you doing? Maybe I gotta bait him out or something. Man, he is tanky. 40k fucking werewolf? Jesus. It's hard to wear him down. Oh, he's running away? You're not running away, mister. Forget it. I said forget it. Oh, he's out of werewolf mode. Oh, now he's really running, huh? Dude, why are you running away? Just fight. What is this? See? You can fight. There's no reason to run away. You're doing well, okay? Let me just give you some words of encouragement. You're doing well. You're doing fine. Okay? I fought worse people. You're tanky. You got the werewolf. You've got the running shoes on. You're fine, okay? Just stay here. Oh no, come on, EP. This is my fight. God damn it. God damn it. Who are you? Warpick? Why are you doing this? Why are you ruining my fucking 1v1? That was a good fight. God damn it, Warpick.